Yeah, I'll be 7 to 21 in Hawaii. So.
Hmm. Fourth to the 15th. So yeah. Well, it's 8 o'clock. I'll call the transit December 8th meeting to order. Looks like everybody's present except for who is not present. We got Richard,
John Menz.
John Mentz. It looks like about it. We got Dave Bartlett and Keith Stray on the and county manager. Thanks, Sarah Stabno. Approval of minutes.
I'll second Brian's motion.
Brian made the motion. Kelly seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? If not, everyone in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Any hearings? Nothing request. I guess on to Austin. Your deal.
All right. If I could get sharing permissions, please.
Okay, you should have it now. Sorry about that.
All right. With it being 10 degrees out, I thought a blue theme would be perfect for today. Agenda, ridership, financials, the grant timeline, where we are at with staffing, the Winter Days parade, around the shop, around the office, and questions. Ridership, doorstop and Red Cedar ridership, decreased, not increased, from 468 in October down to 384 November, down about 18%. And doorstop and Red Cedar ridership increased back from September to October, up 6%. But the rest of the routes increased, which was great to see. Community ridership increased from 559 in October to 592 in November, up 6%, and an 11% gain from October to September. And then the Stout route ridership increased from 7,600 in October up to 10,471 in November, up 37%. And we had, a big break in November for Thanksgiving. So that was pretty cool to see. We had 691 riders just in the AM, 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. yesterday. So almost breaking 700 riders just on the day route yesterday. So students are using it. It's good to see. And it's been a good month. I'm excited to see what the few weeks in December bring for us. Financials, expenses through 11/30. The one thing I outlined in blue, that's our staffing line item. We just received the October and November invoices. And then if you add those in, it goes from 202 to 251 total for consumed budget. If you include October and November's outstanding accounts payable for those two invoices. And then if you add those in through 11/30, we're sitting about 20% to the good for what we should have spent through November. So looking good there. If there's any other questions on any of these line items, let me know. Revenue, this I put through 12/31. I haven't done a deposit until tomorrow for a few big checks that came in. So I added them through the end of the year. And then I added those in these lines highlighted in blue. The WisDOT revenue, we received the remaining 5311 CARES payment that I have to deposit tomorrow. That takes that top line from 63% of what we should be at up to 98%, from 199K up to 308. And then that takes us down to the UW Stout subsidy. We get paid twice a year. We have one payment back from March, and then the other payment, I'll be sending out an invoice in the next week or so for a final payment before 12/31, which takes that line item to 100% at 67. And then for passenger fares, we're sitting at 62%, but October, November agency billing for our specialized transportation, those ARs are still open for getting payments back from them. We just sent November's out a few days ago after the end of the month, and then October's we're just waiting on income from those balances outstanding. So that should be up closer to about 35 or so, hopefully before the end of the year. Adding everything up other than the open AR for the agencies and the passenger fares, we're sitting at 96% compared budget to actuals for the revenue side, which is great to see. Putting all those together, we're looking at really well to the good for the year, which this is my first go around with the capital and operations sides of the budget. But hopefully some of that can carry forward to these electric bus local shares that are coming this next year. Grant timeline. City of Menominee on 10-4, that's complete. The state 5311, that was the big one. That's the main one that we get every year that equates to the 314 or so that we get every year. That is due on 12/10. I uploaded it yesterday. I wanted to wait till after this meeting to just take one last glance at it before I hit the submit button. And then the 8521, that's the smaller around 100K state grant we get for specialized transportation. The doorstop bus, that's due on 12/31. That was submitted by Human Services right before Thanksgiving. So that one is taken care of. The last one for UW Stout, like I said a little bit ago, we have our one summer meeting and then March and December payments for that. Staffing, I go through these same bullets every month, but the one thing that hopefully is different is what is in yellow. Interviewing a driver tomorrow on 12/9. The driver is able to cover 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on weekdays, and that's the exact shift that I cover Monday through Thursdays. So he's a local school bus driver that works mornings and afternoons. So if it works out, that'd be a great fit, and that'd free up a little bit of time constraints that we currently have. Other than that, that has been it for applicants that have signed up for an interview with us. So looking forward to tomorrow. Winter Days Parade. For those of you that don't know, this is an annual parade that didn't happen last year, but we're excited for it to happen again this year. And one of the drivers asked if we could put a bus in the parade. So we're going to put a bus in the parade. Two drivers will finish decorating it this afternoon. It's a superhero theme parade this year. And that's all I can say. Pictures and details to come. But we're looking forward to putting it out there and having it shined up and out with everybody else. Around the shop, been looking forward to this, and this was a big goal at the beginning of the year when we visited 2 other transit agencies. From our 2021 savings from our repair and maintain budget, it allowed for purchasing fleet tires to cover 2022 into 2023. And that's exponentially building on the years to come with us being able to do stuff like this. Purchasing a tire changer and a wheel balancer, and then new impacts and batteries for them. Looking forward to that. So that's one less expense for next year that we can focus on something else. And around the office, 2021 savings from repair and maintain contractual budget allowed for purchasing new driver's tablets, larger, easier to read, route, add and subtract riders, with also better battery life and better 4G signal. And then for what we're trying to implement here in the coming months or years, we're looking to get the Stout campus university cards to somehow be a tap or a swipe. And the better processor in these new tablets should easily support whenever we're able to implement a tracking system for the students with those. So looking forward to that. Questions? Oh, Darren had a question last meeting about the clock tower shelter. We did make a little bit of headway on that. Facilities sent me an invoice for the glass replacement, and that is paid and ordered, but that is as far forward as we've come in the clock tower bus shelter. I asked for a bit of a more concrete timeline on when more progress will be made on it. I'm yet to hear back on that.
Questions, Kelly?
Just a note. City finalized its budget Monday, so next year's grant is locked in now.
Thank you again for the help on that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Darren? Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I was wondering if you heard any more on electric chargers for your buses. Do you ever get them?
We're still waiting on the charger delivery. Our state representative reached out to Phoenix Motor Co. About the buses / electric chargers before Thanksgiving. And I've not heard an update on those either. So we're supposed to get delivered in August, and here we are at our December meeting. So hopefully I have a better update in the January meeting, because that's when the buses were supposed to get delivered here. I'll follow up on that for you.
So just quick questions for you, Austin. So if we get this new person hired, that's going to free up a lot of time for you, so you don't have to cover the lunch period. Is that kind of what you're trying to do?
I mean, yeah, I shouldn't be driving at all, and the position under me shouldn't be driving at all. John, our operations supervisor, he's our first line of defense. He should be working on the buses, working on sending bills out to our agencies for monthly billing and stuff like that. I'm covering most of that. He's driving pretty much his 30 hours a week, and then I'm driving to cover lunches right now. So we're looking forward to winter break coming, to put it in perspective. So we don't have many lines of defense left if I'm driving the 4 days a week. So it's not ideal that the driver that we're looking at is only able to drive, 4 hours during the day, but it's one step forward. I did look at a little bit of the commute to careers documentation, and looking at our staff now and trying to staff what we got here and making sure the wheels are still turning on what we're doing, is I guess our first step in moving forward here. But it does help that after we get through these next 2 weeks, we got a whole nother month to hopefully get somebody else, get them hired in, get them trained in, so we can hit the ground running before the last week in January where Stout starts back up.
Any other questions? Otherwise, thanks, Austin. Good report.
Thank you.
I don't have anything for 7 or 8. I don't have anything else. If there's nothing else, we can adjourn and move on to highway, I guess. So adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Folks, next time. Jumping back and forth on my 2 screens here. All right. Okay. I will 8:15, so we can go ahead and call the meeting of the Highway Committee to order. Everybody is here, plus County Board Chair Bartlett, County Manager Paul Miller, CFO Keith Stray, Sarah Sabino, and our tech person Krista. I think that covers call of the roll. Move on to approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Randy, second by Brian. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Public comment. I believe everybody got the note sent out. We'll just go ahead and, since that was sent out, consider that in the record. If Terry is watching this later and wants to learn more about the ATVs, Dustin, I assume he can reach out to you to figure out what the routes are. I know we've got that information somewhere.
Yeah, he can definitely reach out to me.
Okay.
We'll discuss that with him.
Great, thank you. No items list at the request of the chair. Hang on a second here while I move my agenda a little bit more. I'm gonna, if no one objects, bring the next meeting note up to now, because Randy and I are both going to be in Hawaii at that point. So we may want to either move that meeting, or someone else is going to have to run it, because at 8:15 it'll be 4:15 Hawaii time.
What's the matter with that?
You don't get up that early?
If I have to, I'll do it that way. But Randy, what was the date you depart on?
I'm from the 4th to the 15th, so it's bad.
Okay. If we were to move it forward to the 5th, we wouldn't have Randy, but I would be able to still be here to chair that. Would that, bumping it forward 1 week, would that work for people?
Works for me.
Any
Yeah,
objection?
That'll be good.
Okay, let's go ahead and then plan on the on the 5th for next month's meeting. And then that solves that problem, and Randy is off the hook.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Okay, I'll just need to remember to get that into my calendar when I get it back here in a couple of minutes. So next meeting's taken care of. staff reports. Dustin.
Okay, so I have a list, obviously on the agenda there, so we'll go, bullet by bullet, down the line. Obviously the highway operations will start there first. If everybody notices, you look outside, winter has finally started, unfortunately. So basically we're plowing snow, cutting brush, filling potholes as needed. If those come about, we're doing those type of repairs. We do have a contractor that is scheduled to complete some I-94 bridge repair. Just some surface repairs of the bridge decks that have been damaged, any type of potholes on the deck. They have a patch repair that's supposed to be second to none, the best out there. So we're contracting with the DOT to perform some of that work on the interstate starting next week, weather permitting. This supposedly can be completed in any type of temperature, conditions. So we'll see. If it's the magic repair, we might be looking at some of that down the road. We did extend an offer to a operator position at the highway department. We did have a retirement of this fall with one of our operators. So we did interview process. We did have 15 applicants that applied for that position. We interviewed 6 of them, and we did extend an offer to an individual verbally, but has not accepted at this time. So we're looking at starting this individual if he accepts, looking at the first of the year in 2022. Just based on our current budget status, I think it would be better off just waiting until 2022. And this individual is currently off this winter. Works for a contractor and is laid off during the winter months. So pretty close to January 1st anyway, so it'll work out. The shop operations, we are obviously doing the typical repairs, hydraulic leaks, fluid changes, any type of winter plowing that comes about, comes with repairs. So that's what we're doing currently. We do have staffing shortages in our shop operations. We are currently down 2 mechanics. That's above and beyond the mechanic position that was not budgeted for 2022. We are in the process of interviewing for that. We did have 2 mechanics leave. Obviously, we had one go to the private sector for more money, and we did have another individual that went to St. Croix County for better benefits and higher wages. So that's the growing trend we're kind of seeing. It is a very, very difficult position to fill. We've had the position out in the public right now for approximately about a month, and we've only received 2 applications. Not necessarily the applicants that we would like, that has the vast knowledge and experience on heavy equipment, but we are getting a few individuals looking, and we're going to continue to try to plug away as best we can until we fill those needs. That's kind of the whole everyday highway operations and shop operations currently. Do we have any questions regarding that? Nothing?
I don't see any.
Okay, well, I guess at that point in time, we'll just move on. Just to give you some updates on some of the projects that we're looking at completing either in 2022 or beyond. I did ask our surveyor department, Tom Carlson's crew, to help out and do a little bit of survey work for me on County Road Z project. We did find a piece of property that we could utilize some potential borrow fill for that project. This is County Road Z from C to C down by O'Galley, Downsville area. So the landowner wanted to just have some type of survey work just to kind of give them a better understanding on what our proposed future plan would be. So had the survey department go down there and kind of do some survey work, and we'll put some cross sections together and give the individual just a better understanding. Very open-minded, completely understanded the situation, and this individual is looking for a nice smooth road in the end. And if he can help out in any way, he's all about it. So that's kind of a little update on our County Road Z project. We're plugging away on that little by little. Our County Road H STP project, which is scheduled for 2022. That is from Double H to County Road M, just north of Elk Mound, near the county line. We are falling into utility conflicts on that project. In particular, CenturyLink is a thorn in our side. I guess they're not looking at trying to release their rights on some of the utilities. And that's kind of holding up the project. The DOT has gotten involved with it. There is some legal issues going on. And I've asked if that's going to delay our project, and currently it's not. So they will make it known to the contractor that there could be some utility conflicts that CenturyLink may or may not have to move or relocate, and when the time comes, they'll possibly cut through the lines if need be. It's unfortunate, but apparently CenturyLink does not want to work nicely. So like I said, I just wanted to give you an update on that situation. All the right of way has been purchased on that project. We're actually going to be going out there and marking trees to do some of the tree cutting this winter. There's quite a bit of trees to take down there. And we've been working with Dunn Energy with some potential tree conflicts in the utilities, power lines. So they are going to help out on the situation like that. The County Road B projects, our STP and our MLS projects, they're continuing. They're at about a 60% completion right now. And as I stated in the previous meeting, the estimated cost currently has gone up exponentially from the original estimate that was back in 2 years ago. Obviously, that's the growing trend we're seeing. So we have gone to a change management process to get more funds for that project. And that's currently in the DOT's hands right now. From what it sounds like, it's probably going to be a go. It's just we have to jump through hoops, unfortunately, to ask for extra funds. That kind of concludes our current project status. Any questions?
Joe?
You're gonna be doing any chip sealing down in County C between D and 72? That needs a seal coat back.
Yeah, so currently, I have not put a list together of what we're going to be chip sealing for 2022. But yes, we will be chip sealing. I know that it's been on our on the radar to do a chip seal on that section of County Road C. And like I said, currently there's nothing set in stone right now on that.
I noticed Chuck turned, I think Chuck, Brian, and then Dave. Chuck, you had your,
Yeah, I would you go over this CenturyLink issue again so I can get a better understanding? When you say they're not cooperating, and when it comes time, we'll just end up cutting through the lines, that seems like some pretty drastic verbiage. So could you go over that again, or what is the issue? They're not releasing, or what's happening there?
So so basically, obviously they have utilities within the road right away, so they have to release their rights. Basically, if we've purchased any right away, they need to relocate some utilities. They have to basically tell us what they're going to be doing to resolve the issue. And currently they have not done any of that. There was a deadline by the DOT to have that information provided to the engineer. And like I said, that right now is just, it's going on deaf ears. They've basically said they're not going to release the documents currently. I guess cutting through their utilities is probably not going to happen, but it's a potential. It's just they have to make it known to the contractor that there could be some utility conflicts that CenturyLink is currently not addressing. So that's could be an issue just with the cost of the project. When a contractor potentially sees that, they could say, well, we may have to increase our costs. So that's the issue.
Okay,
Like I said,
thank you.
And they won't put in the verbiage in the bid documents that they can go through and cut their lines. They won't do that. But they just have to make it known that there could be potential utility conflicts on the part of CenturyLink's utilities.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Brian,
Yep, that was my question, Kelly.
already, Dave?
I wanted to go back to the shop operations and you having a hard time finding mechanics. I wanted to look up what we're paying. What are you seeing that the other places are paying? We just went through a study, so I've got an idea what you're seeing because I've heard I used to be in that business. I've got an idea what technicians are being paid, but what are you hearing?
So the individual that was here and went to the private sector, basically there's such a need for heavy equipment mechanics right now, that their starting salaries are in the $30 an hour per range. That is our top end. Currently our 2022 budget would be for a top end mechanic would be $31.68 per hour. And we're seeing in the private sector starting at that wage or if not higher. So it's tough. The unfortunate thing is we can't even draw in individuals that are working at like a Kai's or Johnson Motors or anything like that. It just seems, I don't know. And I can't tell you what like an actual garage is paying for a situation like Kai's. But that's just going off of hearsay of what I've been hearing in the private sectors. Usually right around that $30 to $35 an hour is is the growing trend.
Yeah, and I bring this up. I brought this same thing up at the neighbors with the nursing shortage. What you're saying is exactly what I've heard from the private sector of the people that I know from when I was in business. Is it's in the 30s. Kai's and stuff is a flat rate type. Most of these garages are a flat rate type, and they can make more if they produce more. And they're up over 30 or into the 40s if they're producing. So yeah, it bothers me that we just went through this study. There is a process that you can go through to ask to have this relooked at. And maybe that's something you're going to have to do for the welders and mechanics. Because they have a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to find an individual that has that knowledge. Like I said, we're seeing a growing trend of individuals that are kind of like the part-time mechanics at home type of thing.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I understand what you're seeing, and that's because starting pay at a truck garage is around $35 an hour.
Yep.
And it's, even though our benefits are better, it's tough. Everybody looks at the pay. So I think maybe you should talk to HR and see if that should be looked at. That would be my suggestion.
Yep. No, and I can definitely look at that.
Further questions on the report so far? Doesn't look like any, so onward.
Okay, well, that concludes the bridges, well, the projects, and we'll go on to the bridges. So in 2022, we have 2 bridges that are currently in the program to get replaced. On County Road Q north of Knapp, and then on County Road K in Connorsville. The one on County Road Q north of Knapp recently just got bid out in November here. And I provided that the bid results for that in the packet. So the low bid was Radke Contractors for this particular structure, which is a little bit over the original estimated agreement that we have with the state. And it was approximately about $10,000 difference. So that's something the state will have to look into if there's a possibility of increasing the cost on that as well. The County Road K bridge, that actually gets let here in January. So we do not know what the actual prices are going to be with that. But talking around the area, it sounds like we're still getting pretty competitive pricing. Even though one of the contractors that does quite a bit of work has been debarred by the state. We're still looking at getting good pricing, even with that happening. So those are kind of the updates for the bridges. Like I said, that'll be taking place in 2022 with those 2 structures. And we are actually paying the 20% of the overall total cost. So it's a huge advantage for us to have that into the DOT's program. So any question on the bridges?
Doesn't look like it.
Seeing none. Okay, we'll move on to the next bullet. Is in your packet, you should have seen the County Road Q and W design, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with this or had any prior knowledge of this. But we hired Cedar Core to complete a design of County Road Q and County Road W, which is just south of Downing. If you're familiar with that area. So the big issue there is the intersection of Q and W. Obviously, this is a current kind of T configuration, which is very problematic. There is one stop condition on County Road W that comes to Q, but it is basically like a T intersection. So we do have individuals that don't know what's going on at that intersection. So we've looked at doing a redesign and also address the poor pavement quality of County Road Q and W. Obviously, we have Milestone Materials Quarry, which is on County Road W, that destroys our roads. A lot of truck traffic on it. This was in very poor condition prior to the Highway 170 project happening this summer, but all of the asphalt materials for the 170 project came right down W and Q, which made a bad road even worse. So we have patched it. We've done everything we can just to hold it in place. But what I was looking at trying to do is the possibility of doing this in 2022. There would be some right of way that we would have to purchase, obviously, with that reconfiguration of that intersection. I have spoken to the landowner. It affects basically one individual, and approximately 1 acre of land we would have to purchase. The individual has kind of been open-minded. Obviously, it is farmland, and right now that's precious. So that's kind of the whole scope of the work is to try to just kind of improve that intersection and just make it more accommodating to the increased truck traffic. Doing a little bit of widening, adding some base to the project, and then paving the appropriate thickness of asphalt to accommodate the truck traffic. So the grand total of the project is just under 2 miles. I think it's like 1.8 miles total. But the big thing is, just like I said, the intersection of Q and W. I just wanted you to be aware of the situation that's going on there. And I guess that's the way I would like to move forward with the project. I don't know if there's any opposition or any type of concern with it, or any questions.
Joe?
Is there money in the budget for it? Or-
Currently, the 2022 budget has, this project has been budgeted for it. If we can get the right of way purchased and all that, it's probably going to happen in 2022, but there's still some hurdles that we're going to have to overcome to try to get to that point. So we got to at least start the process of getting it designed, and it may or may not happen in 2022, but that's the goal.
So
Anyone else?
Justin, I'm sorry, Kelly.
No, Brian, go ahead.
So most of the truck traffic will go right around. They aren't going to have to stop at the T. They don't, now they have to stop at the T, correct? And then take a left? As I'm
Yeah.
looking at, I don't know. Looks like it's
Yeah.
upside down to me.
Yeah, so there's still going to be a stop condition on County Road W.
Yeah,
It's just not going to be a T configuration, so County Road Q will be more free flowing,
okay.
and a lot safer.
And that's where the
So
truck traffic goes. Is
yeah,
on
majority
Q.
of them go up to 170.
Okay,
So they'll be turning left at that intersection going north. Yeah, and I guess I can't answer why this wasn't done when we redid Q originally. We stopped where we stopped, and I was told there was some bigger plans that were going to be done, and trying to straighten the road out and doing all this and replacing structures. And obviously that we don't have the budget to be doing stuff like that. So trying to keep it at a bare minimum and increase some safety. Any other questions? See none? Okay, well, I guess we'll move on from that. The next bullet, I guess, is I wanted to have a discussion regarding the equipment. Obviously, in 2022, there's no budget for any purchase of equipment, based on our financial status at Highway. and this will actually be brought up in the next, with the financials as well, but we did have a lease program for our 5 quad axle trucks that started in 2020. So it was a 5-year lease with a 6 payment purchase. So that is going to continue into 2022. And currently what's allocated to it is, I believe it's $100,000 per year until the final payment is 150, roughly. And that'll be discussed more in the financials as well. So going forward in 2022, we're basically on the hook for paying $100,000 for the 5 quads that we have currently. So obviously we'll have to make some adjustments internally here to recoup that, to get that $100,000 for payment. I just wanted you to be aware of that situation. There is a big growing concern, especially at Dunn County and all the counties. We are in a current situation. If we would purchase a plow truck right now, if we would start the process of getting bids out for plow trucks, we are currently not going to see those until 2023. There is such a high demand for trucks right now, not necessarily plow trucks, but trucks in general, that there's a waiting list. In particular, we're assuming it's everywhere, but this is what International is telling us. That's what a majority of our fleet is international. And like I said, it's a growing concern. My concern is if we don't do something now, act on this now, we may not see trucks even in 2023. We do have an aging fleet. We do obviously have, it gets to a point where these trucks start nickel and diming us, where it gets to a point where it's most cost effective to purchase new than to keep sticking money into an old dead truck. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. And other counties actually have been told too that these municipal trucks are getting less priority than the privatized trucks due to the municipal discount that we get. So a lot of other counties are hearing that information. And like I said, right now it's a huge concern. And like I said, I'd love to act on something, but like I said, I know in 2022 we're not purchasing any plow trucks. So we have to kind of look going forward on how we want to proceed. If there's something we want to look at sooner than later, otherwise we may be looking at, like I said, 2024 at the earliest, and to go 2 years without trucks could be detrimental.
Brian?
In a perfect world, Dustin, how many trucks would you like to purchase in 23?
I guess in a perfect world, we would still like to at least try to purchase 4 trucks per year. So we have approximately 40 plow trucks in our fleet. That includes county, state, everything. So if you do 4 a year, that's basically a 10-year turnaround. Which even at that point in time, that's even getting to that age where it's almost too old for a lot of these plow trucks. Our tri-axles, which plow all of our county routes, are used all summer long for haul trucks, and they're used all winter long. So there's not a whole lot of downtime with our tri-axles in general. So like I said, it's a huge concern if we don't try to keep that updated. We might be stuck with 20-year-old trucks and sticking more money into trucks that aren't worth it.
And no
Um,
mechanics.
And
Yeah.
no mechanics to fix them. We actually, I mean, there's proof in the pudding that when we can turn these trucks out at a newer age, we're actually getting very, very good trade-in values on these trucks. These last set of trucks, like a truck and chassis, we're paying right around that $125,000 just for a truck and chassis. With a 5-6-year-old truck, we're getting $76,000 for trade-in on them. It's kind of like a no-brainer to try to keep rolling that out. Getting these trucks that have value, keep rolling those out, so we're not stuck with these 20-25-year-old trucks, and literally at the end of the day, we might get $5,000 for them.
Dave?
A couple of years ago, Dan put together, maybe it's more than that, but a number of years ago, Dan put together a spreadsheet showing the age of our trucks and what we've spent on the older ones. That may be good information for the committee and maybe for the whole county board for next year, but I understand. I totally understand where you're coming from, so I would suggest to see if you could give us that information and come up with your recommendations on what to do for 23 already, starting early in 22.
Yep, and that's what we're doing. So Dan is going to look at updating that. So that was done in 2018. So he's going to be looking at updating that, and then coming up with a full list of all of our equipment and how old it is. So we're in the process of doing that, just so obviously everybody can understand the bigger picture of what's going on, and not just what I'm saying and what you guys are hearing. So, like I said, I just wanted that to be known, and we're in the process of working through that.
Paul, I presume you've turned your camera on so you can
I
add
just
something.
figured you missed looking at my face. Everybody knows this, but just to put it on record, with our financial situation being what it is, we may be in the situation either A, of simply limping along without a replacement schedule. Supervisor Johnson put it correctly, ideal world. We don't live in that ideal world, but it's good to know what we should be doing, what if we had the wherewithal. We may have to limp along, maintaining as best we can. A big important part of the spreadsheet that the shop superintendent, Dan Nelson, is going to put together is the estimated costs for maintaining, so that we can get a sense of how long can we, or do we have any of the 40 vehicles, focusing on the snowplows, the plow trucks, do we have any that simply it costs more to maintain? Now, bear in mind, these are $250,000 trucks, so that's an awful lot of maintenance. But you spread that over 3-4 years, it's possible we may be in a situation which then puts us in the position of considering borrowing. The one thing none of us can do, obviously, is simply invent the money. So just for the record, I know all of you have thought about this as well, but maybe that's the situation that we may very well be in.
Thanks, Paul. Dave?
I guess we have to, this committee has to do what's best for the highway department and come up with their suggestions and the information, what's best for that. And then it would be the county boards. That would be our task to come up how to pay for it. And if we would want to do that, we have to put some priorities, but we've got the highway department, we've got the sheriff's department. That's probably two departments that we can't get along without. And it doesn't make sense to let equipment get sold that it's gonna cost us more money in the long run. And we really need that information. So I wouldn't, I don't think Dustin has to worry about where the money's gonna come from. I think he should go ahead and get that information to us and his recommendations, and then we take it from there.
Yeah, I think we'll need to have a specific discussion about equipment financing either in the January or February meeting. Keith?
Thank you. And Chairman Bartlett, I echo much of what you're saying here. And this would fit in nicely with your capital planning, with that process, to have that full knowledge. I know County Manager Miller and I, as well as Dustin, have talked about this very issue. And how could we, not to have the highway department figure this out, but certainly that plays into the financial planning for the county as a whole. We can't ignore the impact of this, but you also can't ignore the base needs on having the tools and equipment, which could tie into your borrowing plan, your operationals plan, your priorities, all of that. So the timing of Dustin and his team working together to pull this information. We also talked about that this really should be a fundamental thing that is done at least once a year, if not twice a year, at CIP, when you're doing your financial planning and budget, to update it, to make sure that you're on track so that we can quantify that. Helps the county board and anybody else involved to have that information for the decision makers to make those priority and those difficult decisions. So we're on track with where I believe we need to do the steps that we need to take from a financial perspective.
Yeah, so I would say, depending on how long it takes to get the information together and talk with Keith and the incoming CFO and Paul, get that as a discussion point for either January or February, depending on how long the whole process takes on your end. Does that sound good to the committee?
Yeah.
Yep, that was the intent, to try to get this process started, so.
Any further comments or questions on the equipment portion, or is it time to move on to financials? Well, it looks like a good transition to financials since.
Perfect transition. So in your packet, you obviously got the highway financials through the month of November. Currently, we are looking at, we're in the positive right now based on our expenditures and revenues. But obviously winter has started, which is gonna eat up a pretty big cost of that. And we're actually still on track, projected to still be over budget based on our current spending and revenue. I don't know if Sarah or Keith wanna chime in or anything.
I'm here if there's questions.
Keith, do you want to cover the?
Well, as far as the financials go, this matches, or it's consistent with what we've been reporting the last couple of months, as well as with the county board at its last meeting in November. Certainly, the group is working for every opportunity to try to reduce that deficit without harming operations. Some things are happening naturally. Unfortunately, the unfilling of positions or delayed refillings helps the financial aspect potentially, unless overtime goes crazy. That helps, but that's just a short-term thing.
I'm going to note Keith contacted me before the meeting to ask about the lease situation and whether the committee had been aware of it. And I have no memory of the cross lease to another county, and that I find deeply concerning. And I went through my notes on the leasing of the truck, and we authorized new trucks, but I don't see any notes on lease. And since that would be a policy change, a significant policy change to the way we've been purchasing trucks for the now 11 years I've been on this committee, I would have expected to write a note on that. So I, for one, am very much in support of the deeper audit that we're doing on the highway financials, because I would like to find anything else like this much sooner rather than later. So thank you to the facilities committee for budgeting for that deeper audit.
Are you talking about the leasing of the quads?
Yeah, we've never leased before. We've always done straight purchase.
Well, he brought that up to the committee.
Okay. I didn't have a memory of that, and it's not in my notes.
Yeah, we did. We ruled on that.
Okay, I'm glad somebody's memory of it is more solid than mine, because that just struck me as.
I guess the other thing, but I don't know that it's a lease, was with the skid steers. Is that?
Yeah, no, the skid steer turnover, that's something I know we had discussed.
Is that
prior.
still coming for next year, or where's that?
So yeah, that's actually been discussed with, Dan brought that up the other day. I believe our lease is up on that this year, at the end of this year. So all the skid steers are ours. They're the highway department's. But there's an option basically that we can rebid it out to purchase new ones. That's an option. I guess that hasn't been brought up quite yet. I need some more details on it before I go any further, unfortunately, because I don't know the fine details of it. So.
Yeah, no, the other lease, well, Keith, go ahead.
Okay, and thank you. And this is an example of the things that we're unpacking as we go through. Like I mentioned in the memo we sent out yesterday, to get more of the background on some of these things that really we don't have the detail on that we need to learn more about. This was helpful to understand if the committee had the conversation on the quads, on leasing, that wasn't discussed with us, which really needed to be, because it is a form of borrowing. And we can borrow for less than 2.5%, but that's looking backwards. The reason it's being brought up now is we don't have funding for it in 2022 for that lease payment. So we're going to have to make adjustments and come back to you with a recommendation on how to do that. The La Crosse County one is more of a risk assessment type of thing. That it is not typical for one governmental entity to lease major equipment for another county. And this came up just out of the blue. La Crosse County reaching out to us saying, hey, where's our invoice for this year's lease? So, that will end at the end of this year. And Dustin, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's intended, it's not going to be renewed. There was no interest when they reached out. Is that correct?
I guess when they reached out to me, there was a possibility that they were going to renew it, but obviously the cost has gone up. Contractually, we're out of the picture after the first of the year.
Okay, because that's an important thing, I believe, from my perspective, because if we don't have a legal agreement that holds La Crosse County accountable for any damages or any of these lease terms, this really should be going to Corporation Council then to have a agreement, even if this committee wishes to do that, because right now the lease is with Dunn County and the equipment's delivered to La Crosse County and they just pay us or reimburse us. And it was being reported just in miscellaneous expenses and then offset by revenue, which it should be fully disclosed in the budget, and it should be fully disclosed in expenses and revenues. So again, the intent in this is full disclosure so that you don't have these surprises if issues come up. Hopefully, my suggestion would be to end this arrangement at the end of this lease term. And if La Crosse County wishes to extend it on its own, that's up to them. But that's not my decision, but that's my recommendation from a risk standpoint.
And can
then
you
go
share
forward
with
in-
me what this was?
Pardon?
Can you share with me what this lease was?
Yeah, it was in the information that was sent out, and I apologize for the timing on it. It was very late yesterday. It was for, if you're talking the piece of equipment, it was for an end loader and attachment bucket.
Okay,
And I believe they've had it now for 3 years, if my memory is correct. Is that your understanding, Dustin?
2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah, that was the other one. I have no memory of that. If
that I don't remember.
I never
Okay.
heard of that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
we
glad
didn't
people
see-
remembered on the quad, but
And we didn't see anything in the minutes, and that's why we're bringing this up, because, it's just really to kind of get the background on it, connect all the dots that we can, and then make whatever adjustments going forward. Certainly, if the highway committee wants to continue something like this, you could ask for that, but then I'd suggest that we work with the corporation council and get the appropriate legal agreement in place. I don't recommend it. It's highly unusual, but it is what it is. It's what's there right now. So those two things are important. And it ties back to, like Chair McCullough brought up, the need for just the deep dive review to see where we're at with things, to make sure there's no other items. We're not aware of any, but certainly we need to get that reassurance, because the countywide single audit report is a required element of receiving and retaining grant funds. And it doesn't matter where the department is that had maybe a potential issue with this, but if that doesn't get cleared up, and if that report isn't issued, it could jeopardize federal or state funding coming to the county. So it's something that we can't ignore. We have to follow through on it. So that's why that assessment was recommended.
Chuck, I see you unmuted. I presume you have a comment or question?
Yeah, it was just as far as the leasing of the quads. I do remember that discussion, and the fact that that's when we went to the red trucks instead of orange trucks, because red trucks have a higher resale value. So it was discussed. I do remember that. So that was it.
Okay. So clearly my memory on that one is faulty. Thank you. I do remember the orange versus red, but
Keith, could you resend that email to me? I can't seem to find it.
Sure. No problem.
Thank you.
And really the gist of it was to outline those two recent items that we're made aware of, and just needing to get clarification. But really the overall intent is to keep you informed. Not just have something lingering there and then all of a sudden it's a major surprise later on. The other thing I do want to point out is with leases, if you consider leases in the future, I won't be here to provide input on that. That should be vetted through administration before it comes to the committee, and it should be reviewed with even our potentially with our audit firm and potentially with our municipal advisor, because it is a form of debt. And there is an interest rate with those. It's either built into that rate or in comparison to cash price or not. Why is that important? Because the accounting standards, as I mentioned in my memo, now require us, starting in fiscal year 2022, to actually do a separate footnote disclosure on our leases, because the market is looking at, there's been a huge shift. Vendors are very attuned to this, and they're trying to get people to sign off on all these leases, and they're making 2, 3 or greater percent interest. And if our municipal borrowing rate is 1.5%, well, we're paying more for the same thing. And what they want to do is show investors that the county has these other obligations that are debt-like in nature. So like in this case with the quads, the county signed off on a 5-year lease, 6 payments at $100,000 per year with a final balloon payment of $153,000. So that has a major impact to county finances. So you need to be able to disclose that. So that's why there's some growing sensitivity to leases, because there is an industry shift with budgets being tight, people being even leery of borrowing. Well, in essence, this is borrowing. It's just through the through the vendor or whatever arrangement they have made. So sorry for the longer explanation, but I really wanted to make that clear to the committee because this is probably going to be one of the largest areas that will have more and more pressure that way.
Dave?
So would that lease be over and above the levy limit then?
No, because it wasn't borrowed for. The levy limit exclusion is specifically for debt service. This is not general obligation bonds. These are a private financing arrangement, basically.
But you can borrow from a bank and be over and above the levy limit, can't you?
Yep.
So what would be I don't see the difference. If this is if what you're saying this is borrowing, then
It's in essence state law. They
okay.
did not exempt leases. They exempted
All right.
general obligation bonds and bank notes, things like that. From a financial perspective, a lease is debt. But from a statutory perspective, they don't make that distinction.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Anything more on the financials? Doesn't look like it. I guess we are on to considerations for actions. Thanks, Keith. Vouchers. Have people had a chance to look at the vouchers?
Any question with the vouchers that I can help out with, or?
I just got one small one, Dustin, if that's okay. County of Trempealeau, all the same amount of money 3 times.
So what I believe that is for is the purchase of cold mix, patch material.
Okay.
Any further questions? Then can I get a motion to accept the vouchers as presented? Motion by Joe,
Second.
second by Randy. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I
Any opposed? Motion passes. ATV club trail requests.
So to follow back with that, obviously the last meeting we had, we did have one route that was kind of in question for approval based on the town approving the roads in the township, in particular Otter Creek. And we also did have the club approached me about the possibility of editing one of their sections to reduce the length of it to see if the committee would be open to approving it based on that. So on that one spreadsheet that I had with the summary of the 2 roads that were highlighted in red, obviously the easiest one, I guess, is the one on County Road N up by Colfax from 710th to 170 in Otter Creek. That's a 4-mile section. I did find out that Otter Creek did approve their roads to connect to this portion of County Road N. So I know in the last meeting that was in question about approving it until we got confirmation about Otter Creek. So that sums up that portion of County Road N. And then they wanted to, like I said, have the committee to look through the County Road D section up by north of Jake's and Pioneer up there that goes to Elk Point. So they originally had a section that went quite a bit further than what they're proposing currently. So they've changed their section length from 590th Street to 618th Street. And then basically that's the road that's just east of County Road G, that goes up towards Highway 25. So that the road to the east of that would be where it would start, and it would go to the road where Elk Point is, which is 618th Street. So that section length was 0.73 miles is what they're proposing, which is considerably less than what it was from previous. Obviously, it does have quite a bit of traffic on it. It has 1,000 cars a day on it. But they wanted me to present that to the committee to see if it's a possibility of revising that and getting approval for it. I told them I would, so unfortunately, that's the last of it is what they tell me. So I know you guys are all upset. You want this every month.
So with the Otter Creek let's do them separately. Just
Yep.
With the Otter Creek segment, with the connection, does that then fit the rest of the criteria for like AT daily travel and?
Yes, so that section of County Road N has a smaller traffic volume. I believe it was 350 cars a day or less, which in today's world, that's pretty minimal. It is a larger section of road. It's a 4-mile stretch, is what they're requesting. It is a wider road. We have wider shoulders there. So I guess personally, I don't see a concern for that particular one.
Okay, let's, does someone want to make a motion to add that to the?
I so moved, Kelly.
Okay, motion by Brian,
I'll second it.
second by Randy. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Okay, so we'll add that one. Now it's that shorter segment and the 1,000 cars a day. What are the sight lines? What are the rest of the criteria like? Does that?
Yeah, so everything would meet the criteria based on what has been approved from previous. Typical ADT volumes,
Okay.
shoulder width, pavement width, sight distances. There's not a concern for sight distance up there that I'm aware of. So like I said, the only thing is it's a lot smaller section than what it was proposed previously. I believe the previous section was like 2.5 miles, and now they've condensed it to 0.7 of a mile.
Okay, it seems.
I guess the unfortunate thing is if we don't approve it today, they're going to continue to ask for it. They really want Elk Point business. The business is pushing for it. There's obviously a campground back in there. So.
Well, if it generally fits the criteria at the shorter length, I don't see a huge problem with that. Does anyone on the committee have strong?
I'll just say, I mean, I travel that road a lot, and like I say, this is the only point to get from Elk Point to Wheeler, basically, and then they can get all the way around. That's why they shortened it before they wanted to go closer to Colfax, but this way they can still go up to Wheeler and then over to Colfax. You know, support local businesses. It's one of those things. I'm for it. So
You want to make a motion to that effect?
I move that we approve that section of the road.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Supervisor Hartung. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Looks like we can add those two and then get the draft ordinance done for the next meeting.
Yep, and I'm working with Nick on that to update obviously the ordinance, and once we get that presented, we'll present that to the committee.
Great. County snowplowing policy.
I just wanted to give you some update on that. I have not had time, obviously, to sit down and draft a policy draft a policy based on our last meeting that we discussed. I want to follow back with the 2-inch rule. I just want to make sure the committee that's what they would like to see. I know that was kind of the discussion from previous, and then also kind of having the different road sections that would be level of service based on ADT volumes, any type of traffic volumes, any type of issues, hazards that we are aware of. I did follow up with a number of other counties regarding this matter. The big ticket item is obviously the 2-inch rule. I did touch base with Eau Claire County Highway Commissioner, having any concerns that he has seen or has any concerns with from past experiences. They did have issues at first, obviously training the individuals for driving on these road conditions. And obviously different parts of the county, it has different snow totals. You may have 3 inches up north and you might have 1 inch down south. So that's where it kind of got the issue. And like I said, they have not had issues going forward. But I guess I do have concerns, and I just want to make it known. Obviously, we are in a budget issue and trying to save money. But I believe there could be some times that the implementing a inch rule could be detrimental and actually cost more to potentially fix. I mean, let's say if we don't act on a 2-inch or a 1.5 inch snowstorm, gets packed on, and now we're spending more money to try to clear it off to make it passable. So I guess that's what I kind of wanted, just to let individuals know my concern with it. If we're all on board, we can go down that path. But like I said, just take for instance the snowstorms that we've had recently, just particular the one last week before it turned really, really cold. We may, if we did a 2-inch rule, we wouldn't have acted on that. And we would have probably had a sheet of ice on a lot of our roads. I know some of the town roads that did not get cleared were slippery. I'm not saying that they have to be, people can slow down too. I understand that. But we are providing a service for the school buses to make them as safe as possible. But like I said, I just wanted to touch base with the committee before we go any further and just have that open discussion. If there's ways of training our plow drivers to give them better training on when to use materials, when not to use materials, where we could save as much money as possible. Training the everyday public. Just make some Facebook conversations or something like that, just kind of where we're leaning towards, where we may not have every road passable or not, or plowed down to dry pavement. Things like that. Like I said, I just wanted to have that open discussion with you before I put together a snow plow policy. Like I said, that's just something I felt like I didn't have enough discussion. I don't feel we had enough discussion with the previous meeting. And like I said, I think it's something that we should definitely look at and address.
I will throw the floor open. Looks like Brian's a little bit faster off the gun than Randy.
Dustin, what amount of the budget for county maintenance of clearing the roads would be your salt sand? A percentage, give or take, for the year.
Of just the materials you're talking, the
and-
material costs?
Yeah, right.
Okay. I don't have that off the top of my head. So on average, our annual budget is approximately $1.2 million in winter maintenance. Of that, the salt sand materials would accommodate for approximately 200,000 of that. From quick numbers that I just roughly, if we do 15,000 tons a year at $13.50 a ton is what we're charging
Sure.
for those materials. Accumulates to 200,000.
And we all like nice roads to drive on, but is it possible you could cut that down in half? You know, a lot of times you'll drive up a straight shot of a county road, and I'm not blaming anybody for anything, but they'll dump a shot of sand in front of every driveway, which is very nice, but is that necessary? You know, that's just a question I have.
So we shouldn't be doing that. A lot of times we will tell our staff that we just want hills, intersections, and curves sanded. The problematic areas. So if they're doing the individual driveways, that shouldn't be happening, unfortunately. And there is times where we do lay a bead of sand through the entire stretch of road, depending on what type of condition it is. So like I said, there is times where we could retract some of that to be a cost savings. The unfortunate thing is we've accommodated the general public and they expect it is the issue now. Just for instance, yesterday we had an individual complain that County Road F was slippery. Well, majority of the snow yesterday, if you drove fast enough, it would blow off the road. So it's like, okay, so if we start throwing materials down, we have a potential for that snow to stick, which causes another issue. So we try to address individuals calling us and complaining or giving us any type of advice, let's say. But like I said, we try our best, and it's based on what we feel is the best approach to maintain that road at that time.
Randy?
Yeah, if we implement this, is this for just the overtime, or is this 7 days a week, or how does that all work?
Yeah, so
I mean,
basically, obviously, our current schedule is we work Monday through Thursday.
Right.
From 6 to 4. So this would kind of be implemented outside of those normal work hours, is the way that like Eau Claire County has it set up. So if it snows on a Friday afternoon with 1.5 inches of snow, they won't respond to it. They do respond to their urbanized roadways, any type of connecting roads that come into the city of Eau Claire, Altoona, stuff like that, which would be on a county road. It's difficult for us because we do have some roads that are problematic. In particular, the Knapp area, like I say, County Road Q. If we don't address it, we can't get trucks up that hill. So that's kind of where the whole inch rule comes into play, where it could be very difficult, is my concern. Like I said, I don't know if a better approach, and my suggestion is the possibility of training our staff, training our management staff, that we don't have to respond to every snowflake that falls. Get it out there to the general public, knowing that that's our stance. To have an actual rule set in place, that's something we can definitely do, or not. That's the big thing. And I guess definitely want to come up with a policy. We need to, because there is no policy currently. A lot of these policies that I presented to you at the last meeting, where it shows the level of service on certain roadways, that's all basically for the state system. They didn't even address the county roads in that policies. So that follows the DOT policies. So like I said, I don't know if we want to go to a point where we do a level of service on the county road system based on traffic volumes, because that may or may not work. Like I said, in particular, our problematic areas in that area only see 300 cars a day. But if we don't maintain it, people can't get up or down the hill, which is unfortunate. And we do see at times, depending on what type of snow it is, we can have more accidents on an inch of snow versus a foot of snow. People do see, when they can see the roadway, they're going to drive 65 miles an hour on it. If there's 6 inches of snow, they won't be able to do that. They'll try, but they may or may not be on the roadway. So like I said, that I just wanted to double back on that and just kind of have a more open discussion with it. Just to kind of let you know my concerns. I was kind of all just, let's put a policy in place and be done. But like I said, I just want to discuss that in further detail.
Yeah, my problem is that it takes some common sense, and there's certain roads that are just like you say, the Knapp Hill, and there's other roads too like that. And it's weather dependent. If you get a half inch of snow and it's going to be 45 degrees out in 2 hours, or the rest of the day,
and that's where I think getting better training for our staff and everything like that could be huge and beneficial. Like I said, even here at Highway, because we take so many complaints, like I said, we're damned if we do and damned if we don't, if we respond to these snowstorms. But training our own staff, where we see a snowflake in the air, we're responding to it. I think we have to retract that internally as well.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, Dave, go ahead.
Well, I guess to have a policy or something set in stone, it just seems like it may cost us more money to clear the roads after the snowstorm, because it could get built up. I think your approach of training and internal policies of which roads you should do, like you mentioned Q, and maybe some of the other ones that tend to be driven slower or a lot less traffic, don't need as much attention. But I think to start with, that would be the way to start.
Yeah, I don't think when we were talking about a policy, we were thinking in terms, at least certainly I wasn't, of tying your hands and saying you cannot. It's more of the way I would see it is a county policy that says we may not go out on the roads under certain conditions. It's not, we won't do anything under 2 inches, so much as it is possible that we will not do things under 2 inches, so that you have that policy to go back to and say, look, conditions were good, we didn't think we needed to do that, rather than you cannot do that. So it's I guess more cover than anything is how I see it.
Yep. And that's the discussion I wanted to have. Like cannot, will not, or just, at the discretion, there possibly may or may not respond to this snow event based on cumulative snow depth.
Yeah, and expected conditions and.
Yep. Yeah, every snowstorm is different. That's the issue. I mean, 1 inch of wet, heavy snow can be very detrimental. And actually cost us more money if we don't respond to it, and trying to keep scraping and scraping and scraping and adding more material. Because I mean, we're trying our best to try to keep these roads as close to the pavement as we can. There's times where, yes, there's going to be snow cover. and slippery. And it may be weeks on end before that gets down to where you can see the center line. So that's why, like I said, I think we definitely need to approach the general public, our own internal staffing, just getting better training on what we should be responding to.
Anybody else? Brian?
I personally think we should leave it up to the highway department. Just at their discretion. That's just my thought.
Yeah,
And
I
like I said,
agree.
and I'll come up with a policy, and we can still put in there, like, during certain snow depths, we may or may not respond to it. My big concern is just holding your hat on a 2-inch rule type of thing. I don't know if that's, people see that and they take it differently. They just, right away, they're like, you won't respond to it if it's 2 inches. Our own staff is doing that. Is it 2 inches yet? Can we go out? So like I said, we need to put a policy in place to address this, and just go forward on it.
And I think training to train people to think about with common sense where they could save some money, whether it's sanding the whole road or in front of driveways, or, you know, to consider where the safety aspects come into play.
So does that give you the direction you're looking for, Dustin, or?
Absolutely.
Great.
Like I said, I just wanted to have a better discussion with it. It was kind of a little bit short discussion the last time, so.
Alrighty, I don't think we need a motion on that. I think sense of the committee is sufficient for the moment, so you can put together something that you feel is reasonable and come back. Just, it's good to have a policy in place of some sort.
Yeah, and we definitely need that, regardless.
If there's no more discussion on that, no consideration of resolutions and ordinances, we already talked about next meeting date, which will be January 5th. Anybody have anything yet? Huh?
Do you still want to do the same time, that 8:15?
Yeah, we need to try and get transit on board with that as well.
Okay. Okay, so we'll do 8 o'clock then with transit.
Dave?
I don't remember that we talked about recommendations for changing the commissioner to from a public works director to a commissioner. Did we move on that?
You did indeed.
At the last
Okay.
meeting, yeah.
All right.
Speaking of which, is that going to be on the December meeting
No,
calendar, or January?
it'll be January.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Chuck, I see it's on your agenda for tonight, and I will not be able to make that meeting, but I am completely for changing it back.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. Thank you.
Yep.
Question.
Randy?
Just talked about that 64 pit last meeting. Have you ever had a chance to look at it, or where are we at on that?
What was that?
On the gravel pit up on North 64?
Oh, yeah. So I actually did take a look at that. First time I've ever been in that pit in my career here. So yes, I did take a look at it. I believe it could be used for highway purposes. There may be some need to contact the DNR. Obviously, based on the close proximity to the river, what we can and can't do there. But it's a lot of nice sand gravel that could be utilized.
Perfect. I haven't heard nothing, so I thought.
No,
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you bringing that up.
Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.